Okay, good morning. Thanks for being here this morning as Crowley celebrates its 25th annual Yachtapalooza. Typical Yachtapalooza weather. So, the Illinois Waterway system is the connecting link between the Great Lakes and the Mississippi River, vital not only for commerce but for recreational transport as well. The system relies on its working components such as locks and dams to keep the flow of maritime traffic running smoothly. Today, we are pleased to welcome the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Project Manager Mike Walsh and our own Chicago Lockmaster, Tyrone Valley, who are here to explain the workings of the locks and dam system in our area and to outline the recent and upcoming projects and their consequent closures. Please join us in welcoming Mike and Tyrone.
All right, thanks, Mike. We're happy to be here today to talk to you guys about three things specifically. There's been some changes in the Chicago District U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. We're going to touch on that first. We'll get into what the Waterways Project Office actually is. We'll talk about upcoming maintenance scheduled at all the locks and dams in the Chicago District area of responsibility. And then we're going to talk briefly about the new Chicago Harbor Lock Safety Brochure that we just finished up and we're starting to distribute throughout the community. So we'll get started. If you could, next slide, please. So Chicago District went under a pretty significant reorganization here over the last 2 years. Back in 2020, headquarters USACE issued a permanent order that established a boundary realignment that brought more locks and dams into the Chicago District AOR. Previously, Chicago District had Chicago Harbor Lock, which you are all familiar with. And then as part of the transition, TJ O'Brien, which is just downstream from here, that most of you guys are probably also familiar with, and Lockport Lock were realigned to Chicago District, previously from Rock Island District. Brandon Road Lock is currently scheduled to transition to Chicago District as well at the completion of that Brandon Road barrier that they're building that you guys may have heard about that was recently funded, or by 2030, whichever comes first. So when the Chicago District area responsibility expanded, there was a need to create these layers of middle management, so to speak, area project offices that could better manage the waterways and the facilities. Those three new project offices that were created were the Lake Michigan Project Office out of Appleton, Wisconsin, the Upper Wabash Project Office over there in Indiana, and the Waterways Project Office, which is where I'm from and what we're going to talk to you guys about today. So what is the Waterway Project Office? So the Waterway Project Office is established, and we're responsible for the routine operations and maintenance and oversight of 4 facilities. Those 4 facilities include Chicago Harbor Lock and Dam, TJ O'Brien Lock and Dam, the fish barrier there in Romeoville, the electric barrier, and Lockport Lock. We also work on long-term budgeting and maintenance planning activities, and we work with our neighboring districts to schedule work and minimize the impacts to the inland river users, which is all of you. And also now we would be like your primary first point of contact if you had any issues or questions as far as how the locks and dams operate, issues with them or whatever the case may be. Basically anywhere from Lake Michigan all the way into Lockport Lock. And there's kind of a chart as to how we're laid out. Tyrone, he's the lockmaster there at Chicago Harbor Lock. And then we got TJ O'Brien Lock, Lockport Lock, and the barrier. There's the points of contact for them. They all report to me as the chief of the Waterway Project Office. I report to our chief of operations in the district. And of course, he reports to the commander and district engineer, Colonel Culberson. So a lot of this realignment that Chicago and USACE went through was to give you guys one point of contact, the one door to the Corps. So now rather than having to reach out to Chicago District for Chicago Harbor Lock and then Rock Island District over here on the CalSag and for TJ O'Brien Lock, now these localized users here have their one door to the Corps, they go to one district, and it basically improves communication, hopefully, between USACE and you guys who are our customers and end users. So what do we have coming for upcoming maintenance? A lot of you guys have probably heard Chicago Harbor Lock. We have some annual closures coming up November 16th through April 14th, pretty much every year for the next few years. That is to facilitate the wall and chamber floor repairs that are ongoing there. Other work coming up at Chicago Harbor Lock is we have a generator replacement likely occurring this fall. Hopefully we can minimize impacts and not have any closures for that work there. The gate machinery, the actual machinery that opens and closes the gates there at the lock is going to be replaced too later this year. That is still in design. I'm sorry. And so I was Tyrone just told me that may have been slid back to next winter. So it's currently in design. We're going to try to double up that work with the wall and floor work so we can minimize any closures there at Chicago Harbor Lock. Again, this maintenance is important. These facilities are all getting up there in age, and we need to do what we need to do to keep them operating and as reliable as possible. Again, the work at Chicago Harbor, we're going to try to do it all during the winter as much as we can so we can minimize some impacts. We do have the sector gate seal replacement. As you guys lock through the locks there, you might notice the seals are leaking a little bit on the gates. We're hoping to do that work just a few days prior to this winter closure. So that November 16th, 2022 date, that may change. We might back that up just a couple days to facilitate that seal work before we turn the chamber over to the contractor to start their work. And of course, down there at the bottom, there's our out-year construction plan for the wall and floor. As we shift over to TJ O'Brien, something that most of you probably aren't tracking, TJ O'Brien was funded recently for a major rehabilitation in the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, or IIJA. The design team is just getting put together right now. Hopefully design will be underway very soon. We anticipate about 2 years worth of design work ahead of any construction there at site. So the closure duration there at TJ O'Brien is unknown, but I will say that it will likely be during the summer months. So that's something we're going to have to start planning for and working with you all on to make sure everybody stays informed on when that may happen. The reason we need to do that one most likely in the summertime is because if we're closing Chicago Harbor Lock in the winter, we can't completely cut the lake off and have them both closed at the same time, because that will, in effect, cut the lake off from the rest of the inland waterway system. So it's going to be important that we stagger those two closures so there's at least one way for commerce and recreation to get between the inland rivers and the lake. We're going to strive to keep the duration minimized as much as possible. The duration is currently unknown. In my experience, major rehabs are typically in that 90 to 120 day closure range, with construction ongoing at the site for, potentially a year up to that closure point and maybe up to a year after. Again, we will minimize duration potential as much as possible. There's still some unknowns as far as the structure of TJ O'Brien Lock. So it's going to be possible to see some 8 to 12 hour closures periodically for divers and sonar work there at TJ O'Brien to get a good idea of what that major rehab will entail. Lockport Lock, we'll move just a little bit downriver there. Their vertical lift gate installation is upcoming. The gate is currently in fabrication. We expect delivery of that gate late in 2023 or early in 2024, with an installation timeline likely mid to late 2024 right now is what it's looking at. And that work there will entail a 5-week closure at Lockport to change those gates out. We talked about the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act previously. TJ O'Brien is the only project that we've received money for, or funding for, at any of the 3 locks right now. There are additional requests out there, so it is possible that in subsequent fiscal years, either FY23 or 24, that some more packages do get picked up. We don't know if they will yet or not, but just, a heads up, there may be some more substantial work there at Lockport as well, including upper and lower machinery pit rehabs, valve machinery replacement, and controls replacements and upgrades. Again, we don't know if those will be funded yet, but those are requests that we have in. So I'm going to talk now briefly about some safety initiatives at Chicago Harbor Lock, where we're at. As I mentioned at the beginning, we've recently completed the new Chicago Harbor Lock safety brochure. We will pull this up on the screen here in a few slides. And we also have some of these if anybody's interested in them. We have 5,000 copies almost distributed already. And if any of you would like the PDF version, either to hang up in your boat clubs, marinas, wherever, we can send that out to you. You guys can print it out, hang it up on your bulletin boards. Or if you have a request for additional copies of the brochure, we can look to have some additional copies printed, and it sounds like we probably will because the requests keep coming in for more of those. Some things that are in progress there at Chicago Harbor Lock, we're working on improved directional signage. The sign order has been placed, but as everybody knows right now, getting things in a timely fashion is a bit of a challenge. That additional signage we look to put on the river side of the lock there to help better direct recreational boaters and where to wait in the queuing areas. And we'll go over those in a future slide. Just to kind of avoid that congestion right outside the lock gates and help us streamline the lockages and make things more efficient there. Because being one of the busiest locks in the country, it can get pretty congested there from time to time, especially during special events, fireworks, and things like that. Another in progress item is we're working on improving our PA communication and direction at the lock site. We're working with the lock staff there to develop consistent messaging and direction over the PA system. Again, to help us in those congested areas. And then they've also got a new Cushman cart there that has been ordered. We're waiting on delivery for that. Still in April, Tyrone, is that correct? And what that'll do is it'll allow our lock operators to get up and down the wall or over to the other side of the chamber a lot quicker for assistance when needed. And then some upcoming activities we're looking at doing there at Chicago Harbor. For the fireworks night, we're still looking to schedule that fireworks barge lockage on those fireworks nights. Hopefully we can work with the local towing company and establish a locking schedule. That way we can broadcast what that schedule is. Everybody knows when that barge is going to be locking through, so everybody can better plan their routes, whether recreationally or commercial tour industry through the lock there. So that's a future initiative we're working on. And then going back to that PA communications and direction, we're actually looking at evolving that a step further and going with some pre-recorded PA messaging and direction, again, to improve our safety there at the lock, but also, try to minimize and direct people the best we can out of those congested areas. So this is the outside fold of the new Chicago Harbor Lock Safety Guide brochure that we just talked about. The outside of it talks about what to do in certain situations. If you have a damaged vessel, it talks about how emergency vessels have priority, what the safety hazards could be, how things go on fireworks night and things like that. The inside we've changed to a much more graphical format. So this is designed mostly for, I would say, the first time user of Chicago Harbor Lock. So it gives a step-by-step direction, what each of the indicator lights means from red, amber, and green. It talks about what to do inside the chamber. It points out that it's obviously a no-wake zone, kind of what the locking process is. Again, we got a graphic down here that tells you what to do if there's a man overboard, which hopefully we can have a season without any of those, but Tyrone's getting an eye roll from him. It doesn't typically happen. We typically have a few. And of course, our goal is to improve the safety and efficiency at not just Chicago Harbor Lock, but all of our facilities. So the one part of this that I really like is the passing through Chicago Harbor Lock section, this big graphical portion in the center there. And you can see we've kind of highlighted where those queuing areas are. So where we would like recreational boaters to wait. You notice those red rectangles there are kind of outside of the approach area of the lock. We need to keep those areas clear. That way our boats can get in and out. We don't have, as much congestion around our entry and exit points there. So that's going to be our huge focus for this year, is trying to improve that. And of course, our graphic down there at the bottom locking through. And if you guys lock through Chicago Harbor Lock frequently during the summer, you know, Ellie, our lock dog, she even made the graphic there. So we're happy to have her as part of that. So that was the last slide I had, I believe. So we're going to take any questions, comments, or concerns anybody may have from either in the room or online. Tyrone's here to help me. If you guys got some tough ones about Chicago Harbor Lock, he could jump in and help me answer those. So, yes, sir.
That Lockport closure, you're saying that's 2024?
It's likely going to be in 2024. It has yet to be officially scheduled. Again, it depends greatly on when that new gate actually gets delivered for Lockport Lock.
Saying 5 weeks for the gate and potentially an additional 90 to 100 days.
Yeah, we're hoping not that long at Lockport Lock. Again, we don't know what's funded there at Lockport yet. We do know that the gate is going to go in. We do know because it's already in fabrication, but we haven't been told if any of our other work packages for Lockport there have actually been funded yet or not.
All right, it's still a couple years away.
It's still a couple years away, yeah, and we're going to do our best to make sure we're communicating not with just our industry partners, but our recreational partners, our commercial tourism partners, if it's at Chicago Harbor Lock, and try to keep everybody as up to date on everything as we can. The other thing that I'll point out that I probably should have mentioned is Chicago District has a Facebook, Instagram page. If you guys follow those pages, all of those new projects, we do post that stuff on there and try to post our closures as far in advance as we can, and on those pages as well. So it's worth checking them out. Give them a like, a follow, and that'll also help you keep up to date on what's going on up here at the upper end of the inland waterway system. Any other questions?
What about the storms when they come through, the locks are open in the storm?
What?
In a storm, if you have a nasty rainstorm?
A regular storm or
Just
a major backflow event?
Yeah.
For a backflow event, the lock is actually closed. It's for the safety of everybody, and we're trying to help save downtown Chicago. So the lock will actually be closed at that point. We're coordinated with Water Recreation District. They'll tell us when they will actually commence what's known as the backflow, where we send the river back out to it. And during that emergency situation, the lock is closed.
All right, any other questions? All right, well, thank you guys all for coming here today. Certainly appreciate it. It's been great. We have some safety brochures here. We'll leave some for whoever would like some, and we may even leave a stack at the registration booth and see if they can help us distribute them. But otherwise, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Tyrone. Appreciate it. And that's the end of the Lock and Down seminar at Yachtapalooza.